Hello, I'm Amy Baldwin. I'm here with Laurie Hazard, and we are back talking about student issues and how families can support their student. It is the beginning of another semester, or near the beginning of the semester, and we wanted to talk a little bit about the winter blues. Look, Laurie, it looks like you all had a big winter storm recently, um, the sun seems to be shining, so hopefully things are getting better. We've had a little bit of winter weather as well. So what is going on with students whenever they're in a spring semester or winter term or whatever, and the days are shorter, and the light is not, you know,
Yeah,
enlivening them, I guess.
yeah, yeah. I think a lot of times students don't consider that if they are feeling a little low level depression or lack of energy or just kind of feeling the blahs, the blues, that they might not attribute it to the winter time. And as you mentioned, we might know from research and from being on the planet for a lot longer than our students that it really is important to get that light and that vitamin D and how that contributes to energy. And of course, this is regional, right? Because if the students at school in the South somewhere and they're in Florida, for example, they might not be experiencing this. But for students who may be in the Northeast or some of these other areas of the country, I think it's important for them to be aware that on a continuum, they could have the blues and it could go all the way over to the other end of the continuum, and they might have seasonal affective disorder, which is a kind of depression. And so just to kind of be aware and do some thinking about it and self-checking if they're experiencing like difficulty getting out of bed or the motivation to get their schoolwork done or getting to class, or maybe they typically do exercise at other times of the year that involves being outside and they're avoiding going outside.
Mhm.
So I think it's important for them to kind of be aware and to think of some strategies that might help them get out of that if it's happening to them. And I think calendar therapy is a good way to do that, to really be intentional about writing down something in your calendar once a day that gets you out of your room or out of the academic buildings, even if it is just bundling up for a quick brisk walk. It could be 10 or 15 minutes, but to think of some things that they can kind of put into place to try to ward off that from happening. And exercise is sort of the number one thing that can really help with
Yeah.
this kind of seasonal blues and blahs.
Yeah, I want to touch on two things. One is calendar therapy, because I want you to define that, because I don't know if everybody understands what that is. But the first thing is, when you talk about exercise or just moving your body, it doesn't have to be for a long time, and it doesn't have to be like you sweat. It could be, like you said, just bundling up, taking a walk around the building, especially if it's safe to do so, if it's icy or particularly stormy or something like that. Maybe need to modify that. But that idea of getting out, looking at the sun if it's out, looking at the sky if it is, hugging a tree or something like that might be helpful. But it doesn't have to be intensive, in other words, right?
Yeah.
But tell us what exactly, define calendar therapy and tell us what it is and why it works.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's a term that I made up that I use with students when they would come down and be distressed about something. And it could be something that they were distressed about, future focused, or something that was happening this week. And just open the old calendar if you have the old fashioned paper and pencil device calendar, or open up a calendar on your computer and like, let's take a look at it and let's ground ourselves. So, in terms of the winter blues, how I would help students use calendar therapy is to really make sure at least once a week, maybe toward the end of the week, they have put something in their calendar that they can look forward to, either a meal with friends, going out to the movies, a cup of coffee with somebody that they like to be around that will brighten their mood. And so, whenever they open their calendar and they're feeling like that, oh, they can look at the end of the week and say, okay, I have something that I can look forward to. So I think that's one way to kind of use calendar therapy. Or, as we mentioned, exercise is a really good way to kind of ward off anxiety, depression, winter blues. to make sure that they look in their calendar and find that 10 or 15-minute window that they can go and do that brisk walk. So kind of using your calendar as a way to map out what I would call anticipatory problem solving. Like my son is 21 years old. He is susceptible to the winter blues. It happens every year. And when I see him kind of falling into the traps, we talk about it and talk about strategies to kind of get out of that trap of, coming back to your residence hall room and plopping on your bed and flicking on Netflix. Instead of doing that, can we put something in the calendar and instead of the activity that draws you into low energy activities like Netflix or YouTube or whatever it is that students do?
That's a really good point. You're making me think, how would I modify this if I didn't want to, walk outside because it was blustery. And I was thinking, this may sound like an old person saying this and doesn't sound very hip, but dancing to music, like in my room by myself, or finding a space to do that could be another way to kind of get you moving and, could be easy to do for anybody.
And I'm going to say almost every residence halls have these great stairwells. Really, students can let me just go up and down this a couple of flights of stairs a few times just to get my energy up. And like you said, they don't have to,
be intensive about it.
Sweat, but
yeah. So before we kind of wrap this topic up, what happens if it becomes March, the days get longer, the birds are chirping, the flowers start blooming, and you're still feeling down and depressed? Because I know whenever the time changes for me, I suddenly feel so much better when the day gets longer and it's dinner time and there's still light out. But I do also know that there are some people who are waiting for that, and when that comes, it really doesn't change the situation. So what advice do you give?
I think that's a really important question to distinguish between, is this just the winter blues or low level depression, or is it something a little bit more serious? And like I said, these moods exists on a continuum, right? I think that is a really important time to seek out help. Maybe consult with a counselor on campus, talk to a family member and see if they can get you connected with some mental health support. But definitely to reach out, because, as this is really related to our circadian rhythm a lot. And like you said, the light and dark cycles of the atmosphere. And if the days are getting longer and the birds are chirping and it's spring and you're not getting any relief from some of that sort of low level, low energy kind of feeling that we all get in the winter, because this is evolutionary biology. People want to hibernate in the winter. So it might sound like I'm joking about that, but that's the truth, right? In the winter, we all tend to want to hibernate. And if we're still having those feelings come springtime, I think it's really important to self-advocate and reach out for assistance. And on a college campus, there are counseling centers.
Yeah. So if we're talking specifically to families right now, obviously checking in with your student and how things are going, or maybe historically they have had some low times during the during winter. What else do families need to know, or what could they do to support their student going through something like this?
Yeah, I think a lot of the mental health websites have depression checklists, like 10 quick and dirty questions that a parent or family member could pull up and kind of talk through with the student. And typically those self-report inventories that you can find online will give that quick reflective feedback that if you answered yes to X number of questions or no to X number of questions, it might be an indication that something a little bit more serious is going on. And so that could just help families give students a temperature reading.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you, Laurie. Hope that spring brings a cheerier mood, happier times. I know for me, just being warm outside is helpful, but definitely the days being longer makes me more productive and more excited to wake up in the morning. All right, thank you. Oh, hang on.